It is 1895 on the banks of the Congo River. A wooden stockade smokes. Men in black uniforms, force publique, count severed hands into a ledger under the light of oil lamps. Women stand chained to posts. Children cry. The ledger will be handed to a merchant in Brussels, and a bill will be sent to a king who never set foot in Africa. Europe called it civilization. King Leopold called it philanthropy. The map tells another story. In 1884-85, at the Berlin Conference on Prince and in the halls of Berlin, Leopold secured international recognition for the Congo Free State as his personal possession. He did it through treaties brokered by Henry Morton Stanley in 1884. He presented the venture as a humanitarian mission to end the Arab slave trade and bring commerce and Christianity to the interior. The Congo was not a Belgian colony, it was Leopold's private estate. The world that arrived on the ground in the 1890s was different. The global demand for rubber exploded after 1889. Tires, belts, and industrial belts created a market worth fortunes. Leopold needed labor. He built the Force Publique, an army and police force organized in 1885 and led by Belgian officers. The system turned villages into factories. Quotas were set. Failure meant punishment. According to missionary reports and letters smuggled out by traders, punishments ranged from public floggings to hostage-taking of wives and children. There were methods to the madness. The state issued quotas for rubber and ivory. A post commander who missed his numbers sent patrols into the forest. Men who could not meet their quota were executed. Women were seized to force compliance. Witnesses later testified to an almost bureaucratic cruelty. Hands cut off and displayed as proof of efficiency and as receipts for bullets used. Missionaries and travelers brought back objects and testimonies. An African-American clergyman, George Washington Williams, arrived in 1890, toured posts, and wrote an open letter to Leopold. He accused the regime of atrocities without a name. The letter circulated in the United States and Britain. Every escalation had an accounting ledger. Ivory, rubber, and human terror were converted into profit. Ships sailed up the Congo to Boma and Matadi. Companies registered by Leopold's agents sent rich dividends to Brussels. Leopold bought townhouses, parks, and monuments with those dividends. He presented himself in Belgium as a modernizer, a patron of the arts. In the Congo, villages were empty. Forests that once supported communities now echoed with patrols. But the system demanded secrecy. Official dispatches denied wrongdoing. Diplomats warned quietly. Traders muttered. The world's newspapers printed dispatches. Photographs taken by missionaries and by agents on the river, grainy images of chains, of mutilated bodies, began to circulate in the 1890s. But widespread attention was slow. The Free State's administrators argued that any excesses were isolated, necessary, or the work of savages they were trying to civilize. But what investigators found next would change everything. In 1890, William's open letter became one ember. More reports arrived through British consuls, through missionaries like those of the Congo Reform Association, who began cataloguing mutilations and hostage-taking. Frontline accounts told of whole clans driven from ancestral land, of harvests left to rot because men were driven into the forest to collect latex. Scholars later estimated that whole provinces saw population collapses. The press in Liverpool, London, and New York took notice. The word Congo began to mean something else, not the romantic river of explorers, but a hemorrhage of human lives that fed European museums and treasuries. The turning point was not a single trial. It was the piling up of testimony, of photographs, and of moral outrage colliding with political and commercial interest. Leopold and his officials denied systemic responsibility. Belgian diplomats argued that criticism was motivated by jealous businessmen. The Congo Free State insisted that any abuses were punished. Investigations were obstructed. Internal reports were suppressed. The immediate fallout by 1900 was diplomatic pressure, public agitation, and the slow erosion of Leopold's immunity. Campaigners in Britain and the United States turned outrage into political leverage. Leopold continued to collect wealth. Men who enforced the quotas remained in their posts. Villages never fully recovered. Many witnesses were silenced by exile, by death, by the passage of time. The facts that survive are stark. Treaties signed on kitchen tables and in tents turned into forced labor regimes. Missionary letters and a few photographs carried greater weight than official reports. A king who styled himself a civilizer profited from chains. Thousands, perhaps millions, disappeared into disease, famine, and violence. Museums across Europe acquired bronze plaques and ivory carved in the courts of the Congo, artifacts uprooted amid burning and slaughter. There was no simple justice before 1900. There were only ledgers. There were only ships leaving full. There were only palaces in Brussels paid for by goods gathered under gunpoint. Leopold would die in 1909 with his reputation contested but his wealth largely intact. The Congo would remain scarred for generations. What remains is the ledger and the photograph. The ledger lists quotas met. The photograph shows men staring into camera lenses, hands missing. The question left for anyone who traces the receipts and reads the names is blunt. When a state turns administration into private profit, who keeps the receipts and who keeps the victims?